All right, what's up, people? It's Brianna Basale from the Affluent and Black podcast. Excuse me, I am feeling a little under the weather, but we still getting this content to you guys. And today we have another special guest, Sherrod, and this man is just remarkable. So I'm going to let him tell you about him. So where are you from, your upbringing? Just tell us who you are and to talk about your company.
Sure. So my name is Sherrod Woods, founder and CEO of 3NetWise Incorporated. We're a patented remote patient monitoring company located here in Chicago. I'm a native of Chicago, born and raised here on the southwest side in LeClaire Courts, attended Chicago public schools, both Hearst Elementary and Curie High School, both on the southwest side of Chicago. After high school, I matriculated to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale and was majoring in electrical engineering, and found out that it was the hardest major on campus and that I was ill prepared to major in electrical engineering. And so I had a math professor to tell me that I should think about changing my major to something that was easier, and that really got under my skin. And so I went home to my dorm and wrote a sign that said, "I will be an electrical engineer." And so I learned how to study, and then I ended up transferring from SIU to a historically black college and university, Xavier University of Louisiana in New Orleans, where I received my degree in physics there. And then I matriculated to Howard University, another historically black college and university in Washington, D.C., where I received my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. And while I was there in my junior year, one of my professors, who was an MD PhD from Harvard University, was teaching a seminar in bioengineering. And so he taught us that the body was comprised of all these different engineering systems, whether it be electrical or mechanical, civil or chemical. And so I was hooked on bioengineering and biomedical engineering. And so after graduating Howard, I matriculated to Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, where I received my master's degree in electrical engineering, and I focused in biomedical engineering. And my master's thesis was on a baseline wonder removal filter for the ECG signal. So it was a heart monitor that patients would wear, and we would remove any ambient noise from the signal so as not to distort the ECG signal recording for that patient. And I received an A+ for that work, and I was really hooked that this is really for me. And while I was there at Cornell, we had a guest lecturer to come in, Wilson Greatback, the inventor of the implantable pacemaker. And he explained to us that he came up with the idea while working in the physiology department that the heart was just a pump with a wire and battery attached to it. And so that's how he came up with the implantable pacemaker. And so after listening to that, I was really intrigued and wanted to learn more about how to apply engineering to the body. And so after I graduated from Cornell, I went to work for Motorola here in Chicago as an embedded software engineer, doing software for cars, automated locks and windows and such. And I learned how to program microprocessors at that point. And after a year of that, I decided I really want to go into biomedical engineering. So I was recruited by GE Healthcare out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and was recruited into their Edison engineering program. It was a 2-year rotational program, and you got a chance to rotate in different facets of medical imaging. So I did software engineering for both the medical resonance imaging and computer tomography imaging, and received awards for my software work there, software development work. And then after graduating the program, I decided a few years later to start my own business, and I started an IT firm, 3NetWise, in August of 2000, and went to DC with my then new wife and new baby girl to chase government contracts. Yeah. And serendipitously, I ran into my old professor from Howard University, Dr. Ernest Carter, and they had just received a grant to do telemedicine. And so I was like, what is telemedicine? And he explained to me what they were doing. They were remotely monitoring patients, but they were using like the large kiosk system where you go to the Walgreens and sit in the booth and put your arm in a cuff and all that. And I said, there's a much better way to do this, Doc. And he said, well, if you can figure it out, I would suggest that you do it. So we did that, and we filed for patent protection in March of 2008. And we received the first patent June 26, 2018. Then our second patent, September 20th, 2020. And then we began, when COVID hit, that's when we knew that the technology could really be used, because before we weren't getting much traction. It was more of a nice to have, but not a need. But then it became a need with COVID, and we began calling hospitals, and finally Cook County Health took our call and said, hey, we'd like to see what you guys have. They saw what we had, and after months of discussions, we created a pilot for chronically ill patients to keep them out of the emergency rooms and out of the hospitals, and remotely monitor them from home using Bluetooth-enabled medical peripherals.
Wow, that was a lot. Basically, you're a rocket scientist, right?
Actually, I did a summer internship with NASA for two summers. So.
The irony, I'm not surprised. That's impressive. So going back, you said you created a sign that said, I am going to be an electrical engineer.
Yes.
That's powerful, because I always speak about affirmations and just, like putting up sticky notes. Like I still put sticky notes like in my bathroom of like goals I want to reach. And people underestimate that. That's powerful. Someone told you that, choose something easier, and you went the path of, the most resistance, and you're successful. That's powerful. So with 3Net Wise, did you start it with anyone? You have any partners or?
I'm a 97% owner of the company, but I did bring aboard 3 software engineers. One of the software engineers I went to school with at Howard, and he was the former software architect for Blackboard, the educational software platform. So I brought him on board to help me to kind of map out how I wanted the platform to work and interact with the patients. Okay.
And as far as breaking into the healthcare field, it's not an easy field to break into.
No, it's not.
It's so basically, like, how did you guys go about getting those contracts in hospitals? Were you like emailing, calling? Because, like acquiring those contracts is, something someone else out here may want to do for some of their devices, right? And it's not easy. Was it just as simple as being persistent? As far as reaching out, did you use any connections? Like, how did you go about that?
Yeah, it was definitely persistence. So as I had mentioned earlier, we'd call several hospitals, and we didn't have any luck. And then finally we called Cook County Health, and they were willing to listen to what we had to say, given that we were in the middle of a pandemic. And so we were able to get a meeting with the chief information officer, and we did a demo over the web. And because no one was going in person, face to face because of the pandemic. So we did everything virtual, and we were able to demonstrate the technology virtually to show them this thing, that it works. And so they were impressed with that, and they said, hey, we want you guys to come in because we really want to look at, doing a pilot for our chronically ill patient population.
Nice. Wow. So how did you go about getting the devices created? I mean, I know you're an electrical engineer.
Yeah. So
how'd you go about it?
Yeah. So we started off with this device. It's called a plug computer. And basically it's a computer that you plug into your wall, but it has Wi-Fi capability and also cellular capability.
Okay.
And Bluetooth. So we were able to initially start off with this device, have the patient to plug it into their wall, and then use Bluetooth-enabled medical devices to communicate with this device.
Okay.
The only problem with this is that there was no visual cue or any visual feedback for the patient. So we quickly realized that we needed to migrate the software to a different platform. So we migrated to the Android platform for both phones and tablets, and now the iOS platform for Apple devices. And so the pilot consisted of the patients getting these tablets, these Android tablets, and all the medical equipment that they were prescribed by their physicians. And the patient would then use the tablet to take his or her own vitals, and then the vitals are securely sent to the patient's electronic medical record system. So we had to integrate our software with the hospital's electronic medical record system, which took about 6 weeks for us to do that. And then once we were able to do that, we would get the patient record, which is basically a database of all the patient names and patient IDs and all that. We would read in the patient information from the database and then enroll them into the program. And we had another company that went out to the patients' homes to train them on how to use the equipment, how to use the technology. And after about 15 or 20 minutes of training, the patient was ready to go. We would then test to make sure that their vitals were being sent to the right record, and they were good from there.
Okay. So as far as the technology and the devices, you created everything like domestically. I mean, did you go outsource materials from other countries or?
Well, the devices are commercially available off the shelf devices or COTS devices. So they're manufacturers like Nonin for the pulse oximeter.
Okay.
Welch Allen is another company.
Okay.
And so Omron is another. So we just use their devices off the shelf. And then we have an agreement with each of those companies to configure our software with their hardware.
Okay.
So it's a win-win. They get to sell hardware. We get to integrate our software.
So as far as using those companies and them allowing you to integrate with your software, it was just a matter of just reaching out to them as well?
Correct.
Okay. Interesting. Why do you think no one else has tried to, come out with this? Or are there competitors or?
There are competitors. There are the Me Too's that are here now. But the fortunate thing is that we were able to file for patent protection back in March of 2008. So that's our priority date.
Nice.
So anyone who came in April 2008, you're too late, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like the saying goes with the second guy that came up with the invention for the telephone. He made it a day late, so we don't even know who that guy is, right?
Yeah.
And so we have a patent litigation firm that's representing us on contingency and going after these companies that are copying our product.
Nice. So can you talk about the patent process since we're on that? And
yes.
If you feel comfortable, how much was it for the patents?
Sure. So
it was not cheap.
It was not cheap. We went through 3 patent attorneys before we found the right one. And what we learned from that experience is that if you call a handyman to fix something in your house, they may be good at plumbing, but they're not good at electrical or drywall, for instance.
I bet.
And so we thought a patent attorney was a patent attorney was a patent attorney, and that wasn't the case. So we finally found a patent attorney with the right background, and each patent attorney charges about $15,000 to $20,000 for their services to file the patent. That's patent prosecution. And so we finally found the right patent attorney in Silicon Valley. Okay. And he was well-versed. He had a background in electrical engineering and mechanical engineering, and he had a law degree. And so he knew the ins and outs of what we were doing, and he was able to not only get our first patent through, but expand upon what we were doing to cover more intellectual property. Wow. Okay. 15,000, 20,000. Jeez. Yeah, and that was 2008 prices, so they've probably gone up since then.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're probably looking at like 30K right now.
Right.
Jesus. So I'm sure you received some type of funding for that.
No, it was all personal savings, friends, and family.
Wow, really?
Yes.
Wow. So you went into your personal savings, used friends and family funds, and literally invested $15,000, $20,000 or more than that in your business.
Correct.
Wow. Okay. A lot of people these days are not willing to take risks like that. I just want to reiterate that. Like, you literally took a leap and you said, okay, I know this is something that the world needs, and I'm gonna throw my funds into that. That's impressive. Seriously, I commend you for that. Speaking, since we're on that topic, what do you think about entrepreneurs today, as far as the way they just go about business, starting businesses, investing? What advice would you give them?
I would. Well, I don't want to be responsible for advice, so I'll just give my opinion.
Your opinion. Yeah.
I think you have to be really passionate about whatever it is that you're seeking to do as a business.
Okay.
And the reasoning for that is there are going to be, times when you're up and times when you're down. And so if at the root of that is your passion for whatever it is that you're doing, that'll keep you going through those hard days when things aren't going so well, or you didn't get a contract, or you didn't get the callbacks. As long as you have passion for what it is that you're doing, eventually you will be successful.
100%. I like that. It's all about just keep going, basically.
Correct.
And since we're talking about obstacles, right? A lot of entrepreneurs don't get over those hurdles or obstacles. They just fall back, fold, right? Mm-hmm. And they just try to start a new business, or just don't do it at all. Did you face any opposition when, trying to, I'm sure you did, when trying to get your technology out there? I mean, were there like companies, providers, hospitals, they're like, nah, this isn't needed, because most people get told no once and they give up.
Right. Yeah, I remember distinctively there was a hospital here in Chicago, and this was circa like 2011, 2012, and everything works with cellular. And the person that we were meeting with, their office was in the basement. And so,
seriously,
yeah. And so the technology wouldn't work. We couldn't get it. We couldn't get the cellular device to work. And it was one of the worst meetings I've ever had in my life, because I knew the technology worked, but because of where we were located in the, sub basement, I couldn't get a cellular signal to prove that it worked. And so that was a no. We talked to another hospital. They were like, yeah, we'd like you to do a pilot, but who's going to pay for it? And we're like, you guys have tons of money. You should pay for it. And they were like, no, we don't have money allocated for that. So if you guys don't have the money, we won't do the pilot. And so as the years went by, we got a lot of no's. And so I had gone back into corporate to work as a senior research engineer. And did that for about 12 years. And then in 2018, I said, you know what, I'm going to jump out here again and go after this. And then 2 years later, COVID hit, and life for us changed overnight.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, literally. Mm-hmm. So, and you filed for the patents before you went back into...
Correct.
Yeah, so you were taking that risk up front, and in that moment, you're like, okay, this probably isn't going to work. And then you said, you know what? Let me just go into corporate, and then you just jump back in 2018 when you saw an opportunity.
Right. Yeah, because I knew it would just be a matter of time before the technology, caught up, or people caught up with the technology and realized that it's more of a need than a nice to have.
For sure. And that's key. I really want to point that out. You went back to work.
To a 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
Yes.
A lot of people have ego, pride, and they're not willing to do that. I had to do that, to be transparent at one point, mainly because I said, okay, the more income I have, I can pour into my businesses.
Correct.
As long as it's not more than 9 to 5, it's not like a 12-hour job, a day job. I can use those funds and build my business faster.
Correct.
Versus trying to survive on income from new businesses that's barely generating money. And I just wanted to point that out. That's key. A lot of people have too much pride, and they're not willing to do that. They're just going to try and play the entrepreneur role until they're so deep in debt to the point they have to file bankruptcy. It's like, no, just go back to work.
Right.
When you need to. like it's okay to retreat.
Right.
That's what I'm
Exactly.
trying to say. It's okay to retreat.
Right.
You know, some of the best entrepreneurs and billionaires today had to do that at one point,
Right.
and that's fine. And so I commend you for that. Seriously. So what are you doing today with the company? What new projects are you working on? If you can talk about that.
Sure. So the pilot with Cook County was 100% successful.
Nice.
They're looking to expand the pilot beyond the 1,000 patients that we had enrolled to tens of thousands of patients. So we're looking forward to that process. We're going to have to bid on that particular contract that's coming down the pike, and we're also working, discussing our technology with a country outside of the U.S. I can't say the name of the country, but I have that call on Wednesday at 6:30 a.m. Central.
Oof.
They're 8 hours ahead of us. And so I met them at a health conference. So they were really excited about the technology and how they could use it in their country. So we're excited to expand the technology, not only here in Chicago, but across the country and hopefully across the world.
That's amazing. And that's going to be our next question. I was going to ask if you had plans on expanding to like other states or any states you're looking at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there are several states that we're looking at right now. We're also looking to get into the Veterans Administration to provide remote patient monitoring to chronically ill veterans.
Okay. So as far as getting into these hospitals, as far as the money being spent, do the hospitals get a certain percentage, or
Great question.
is that, how does that revenue model work?
Yeah, great question. So remote patient monitoring is reimbursable. So it's reimbursable as though you were going into the doctor for a face-to-face visit.
Ah.
And they have what's called current procedural technology codes, or CPT codes as they're called.
Okay.
And there are at least 4 or 5 of those codes that add up to about $200 a month per patient.
Okay.
So as you can see, we charge in like $30, $35 per month per patient.
Okay.
And then they net $200 minus that $30. So $170 the hospitals can receive in revenues,
Wow.
additional revenues.
Yeah, that's good money.
Yep.
You got a lot of patients.
Right.
Huh.
And the patients are at home. They're not inundating the doctor's office or the emergency room. They're able to take their vitals from home.
Nice. Interesting. Are you looking to sell the company at one point, or in the future, or
that remains to be seen. with the way that the economy is now, the multiple that we could have sold it for a few years ago has declined.
For sure.
So there was a time when we could have sold for 20 times revenues, but now that number's more like 7 to 10. So I don't think right now we're looking to sell. We want to grow it as much as we can.
Yeah, that's probably like the best route.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for someone looking to get into telemedicine today? Because again, that field is difficult, and it requires money.
Yeah, I would say if you're looking to get into the telemedicine space, you have to decide if you're going to be a reseller of hardware or if you're going to be a software company, right? A lot, and you have to decide if you're going to do. So there's a difference between telemedicine and telehealth.
Okay, can you explain?
Yeah, so telehealth is more of like a FaceTime with a doctor. There are no vitals involved. It's just you doing a video visit with your physician.
Yeah, I've done that.
Right, so that's telehealth, right?
Yeah.
But telemedicine actually involves looking at the vitals of a patient, right? So heart rate or blood pressure or temperature or pulse oximetry for the blood oxygen levels. That's more on the medical side, right? So they're looking to make a clinical decision based on what they're seeing with your vitals. So that's telemedicine. So, one would have to decide which route you want to take. And then there's also mental health, right? That you could go into and basically build a platform to basically do a FaceTime visit with a patient, right? Mm-hmm. And making sure that it's secure, right? And no one can break into, a video chat, right? When you're talking about mental health, right? So I would say those are the different avenues, either build a software platform
okay.
That accommodates patients for basically FaceTime visits, or the medical device piece. But if you do the medical device piece, you're going to be infringing on our patents, so you're going to have to pay us to go into business. So
he just letting it be known. Yeah. Okay, it's tough now. So can you demo that?
I can.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to show here.
I know. In just a background, we met at Biggs Mansion downtown Chicago at the Cigar Lounge.
Yes.
And that's where we met. And, we were just out, and this happened, So I always tell people, just put yourself in places where it's going to be people that you want to meet.
Right, exactly.
Right? There's certain restaurants downtown Chicago that are known to have a lot of business people that, dine there. Just put yourself in those places and you can make a lot of connections. Correct. And I'm happy we crossed paths and met.
Absolutely.
So that's key.
All right. So what I'm going to demonstrate now, so this is an app that you can download on either the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. So if you type in real-time vital signs, 4 different words, mm-hmm. Or 3 NetWise, you'll be able to pull up the app. So what I'm going to demonstrate here on the iPhone is the pulse oximetry, which is going to tell me the level of oxygen in my blood and my heart rate. And so it just popped up, and then I'll turn it here, and you see it here on the device here. So it's being uploaded to my electronic medical record,
wow.
Which is Oracle Cerner's electronic medical record system. And we do the same for all the different vitals, whether it be blood pressure or weight or temperature. We can do all of those vitals right from the convenience of your phone.
Wow. And that gets sent, your doctor has access to that,
correct.
Your provider.
Correct.
Are you able to go direct to consumers?
We can. The only difficulty we've seen with that model is that you have to have a relationship with health insurance companies.
Okay.
Right. And that's a tough nut to crack to get into that space because with a consumer, they could purchase the products, right, and download the software, but their primary care physician would have to have our software integrated with their electronic medical record system. Now, we've pursued that model. We're looking at that model of going after individual primary care physicians,
okay,
and then providing the integration of our software with their electronic medical record system for free in exchange for a 50-50 revenue split for their patient population.
Nice.
So that $200 that I alluded to, we would get $100 a month per patient. They would get the other $100.
Nice. And this is building those relationships with the providers?
Correct.
Okay, because that's going to be our next question. Have you tried infiltrating medical facilities by making connections with top providers there?
Right. So we reached out to a group here in Chicago, a nephrology group, so for kidney disease patients and kidney dialysis patients.
Okay.
Reached out to that group because they serve a large number of patients. And as you know, kidney disease affects people of color disproportionately. So we were looking at talking to them about remotely monitoring those patients, either at home or in the dialysis centers, because a lot of times the nephrologists have to travel to the dialysis center just to take the patient's vitals. And so they're band limited by how many patients they can see in one day because they have to travel from one facility to the next.
Oh, wow. Huge inconvenience.
Right.
Huh.
And it's reimbursable. So they would get paid the same amount of money as if they were there in person.
Okay. Have you thought about adding any other technologies to your company or?
So what we're looking at now is artificial intelligence.
Oh, wow. That's big
yeah,
right now.
Yeah. So what we're looking to do is to be able to predict whether a patient is trending towards, say, atrial fibrillation with the heart.
Get out of here. Really?
Or some other acute episodic event, such as a heart attack or a stroke, by looking at previous data and then looking at a patient that actually had an episode. What were the conditions of that patient at the time of the episode? And then be able to look at if other patients are trending towards that type of episode. So that's the future for 3.Wise is to be able to use artificial intelligence to predict whether a patient is going to really have a catastrophic event, such as a heart attack or stroke.
Wow, that's crazy. The power of AI, and of course, I know that takes time to build out, but that's amazing, man. I'm happy for you and the company. I think you guys are doing like great things.
Thank you.
Seriously, that's all I have at the moment. I mean, this was all amazing. So where can people find you?
You can go to www.3netwise.com, and that's the digit 3, not the word spelled out. So 3netwise.com.
Nice. Are you guys on any social media platforms or?
Facebook. We're on Facebook.
Facebook. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's it, people. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. A lot of good knowledge dropped about the telemedicine field, and see you guys next time.